Right, we're live. So today I'm joined by Paula Eddy-Wilcox, who's the natural leadership coach. And we're going to talk about all things natural leadership, as well as what actually is being comfortable in your own skin all about. So first question for you, Paula. You class yourself as the natural leadership coach. Do you want to tell the viewers and the listeners actually what that means and more about that?
Of course. Thank you, David, and thank you for having me here today. I'm really looking forward to talking to you about all of this. So why the natural leadership coach? Goodness me. This came about in a couple of conversations last year with two different people, actually, very early on last year, where the idea that I'm very natural in the approach to things and the way that I support my clients. So it sort of comes from that for a start, but the other part of it is that I have a belief that people sort of have this natural leader within them, whether you're leading your own business. The word leading puts a lot of business people off. They think, oh, I'm not a leader in its traditional sense in the corporate world, but you're still leading your own business, the CEO of your own business, if that makes you feel better about it. So that natural leader that resides within us. And I love helping people to kind of reveal that natural leader within and be able to be comfortable in showing up on a daily basis as to how they do it naturally in their own way, instead of showing up as expected and what that entails and all the airs and graces we might have to put on because we think that's what people want to see. And I think a lot of that comes with age and experience. I'm not going to reveal my age here, but, I've got a few years behind me. So, we can say that as I've got older, that kind of thing has become a lot easier. And I think, helping people realize their leadership potential in that way and what naturally lies within them. It starts with an understanding of knowing where you are now, where you want to be, and what barriers might be in the way of you doing that. So, it is very much a kind of natural approach to all of that.
So I'm guessing when you're working with different leaders and entrepreneurial people, you're unpicking exactly what their strengths are and their values and things like that to bring the best out in them.
Yes, that's right. We do go quite deep into that sort of thing. And if people want to really identify their values, we can do that. Because let's face it, whatever our core values are generally what makes us tick. But something I do and feel passionate about with my clients is helping them reveal and ignite their purpose. And there's a lovely synergy with mental toughness, in fact, David, and purpose together, because, there's all sorts of research, and forgive me for not quoting anybody in particular, but the general ethos is that to know your purpose is to have that anchor that keeps you grounded in times of challenge. So if I sort of relate that to resilience, which is, again, a lot of the work that I do, and the purpose piece comes into the mind, body and soul, the soul part of resilience in the work that I do, because it's intrinsically who you are and what you do and what makes you do what you do and why you do it. That kind of is a lovely way to think about what helps you become more resilient, more mentally tough, in that sense, because you know why you're getting out of bed in the morning, what really ticks those boxes for you and gets you excited and motivated and brings all of that to the floor for you, often because you know that purpose.
And I suppose that takes us nicely to when we talk about being comfortable in your own skin, because you're driving more awareness of someone there and their qualities so that they can then go on to be more comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, I think I alluded earlier, getting comfortable in your own skin takes time to really truly get to know you and what's inside. But it's all about those experiences. And if I think about the mind piece of mind, body and soul in resilience, that sort of that mindset piece, when you think about positive mindset and fixed and growth mindset, and the differences between the two and what that allows and enables you to do in your own life. So if I think about Carol Dweck, who's kind of my guru on fixed and growth mindset, she did the research back in the early 2000s on young children and how they were nurtured in two different ways and how that influenced the behaviors and the results and the beliefs in themselves. So in terms of the children that were led to believe that things that they were trying for the first time were dictated by natural ability and that was finite, that meant that they gave up if they couldn't do it first time. Whereas those children who were nurtured to think that effort comes into it, energy that you put in, and if you really try hard and keep trying over and over, you'll get to it eventually, and you'll get better and better each time. So that second example is an example of a growth mindset where you try something, you keep trying, you keep failing, but as long as you learn from those experiences and you try again and do it better and differently next time, same input leads to same results. Do something different, you start to get different results. So all of this is starting to build the picture about how you can be comfortable in who you are and in your own skin, as you so eloquently put it. And I think it's also those wider experiences as well. One of the courses that I've had the honour of delivering on purpose, I've got my own purpose program, but I also deliver for another organisation. And we talk about crucible moments. And these are moments in your life where you go through it can be trauma, a traumatic journey for whatever that means to you. I myself have experienced bullying in the workplace, for example. So that's one of my crucibles, if you like, in terms of the stories that make me who I am. And it's that learning process and that moment where something switches inside and all of a sudden you're able to say, oh my goodness, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't right. I'm going to get myself out. And you find this power from within you, is the only way I can describe it. And this sort of effort and resilience in bucket loads comes from somewhere, that you're able to suddenly say, this isn't okay, and here's what I'm going to do about it. And different people react at different times and behave differently through these processes, but the idea is the same, that you all come through and you can reflect on that point in time to understand what those strengths were, and really those strengths that you can then draw on because you've got evidence of how they helped you in the past, to really make up who you are. And understand how that makes you more comfortable as who you are. And again, it links beautifully to that, what naturally lies within, because nobody can do these things for you unless you commit, you take action, and you show up and help yourself. These things tend to go on much longer than we'd like in times. And don't get me wrong, I've been guilty of that myself, not acting fast enough, and oh goodness me, why didn't I do that ages ago, and I could have changed something much faster. But as we get older and we get to know ourselves much more, and what we're truly capable of, it's lovely to think and know, because we've got the evidence, but also then believe that we're capable of more than we think we are.
Yeah, there's a few things for me to dig into a bit deeper there. So part of the mental toughness framework that I utilize, there's a bit which is called learning orientation. So
Mm,
in effect, it's being able to take a step back and reflect and learn from your mistakes.
mm,
So yeah, that's definitely, obviously from what we're saying there, that's one part of being able to then be comfortable in your own skin. And then you talked about experiences as well. Experiences also help you to then again be more comfortable in your own skin.
yeah, absolutely.
Do you think age is a factor in this?
Well, I've said it a couple of times. It's got easier for me as I've got older, and I do think it does play a factor, David, because if I think back to the raw and enthusiastic and motivated version of me that showed up when I was 19 in my first full-time job, way back when in the hotel industry, I'm quite a different person now. Fundamentally, I haven't changed. I'm still me. I still look the same. But the way that I think and the way that I approach situations are much calmer. That's probably a good way to describe it. And more considered than they were when I was 19 years old.
Yeah, and I suppose the brain is developing, isn't it? It's around about 30 when it's actually fully developed in terms of your emotions and being able
Mm.
to deal with emotions. So that's going to be one factor. And then the other thing is, if you allow yourself to reflect there and to better understand how you go about things, then you're just gradually improving your own awareness of yourself, aren't you?
Mm. Yeah, that's a really, really good thing that I want to pick up on there, and it is about self-awareness. Now, you will see some people in life that go through life, and you'll know when you come across them, because you'll say to your friend or your colleague, "God, did that really just happen?" They completely didn't get the situation we were in, or how to deal with it, or how what they did impacted the others around them, and that sort of sadly means that their self-awareness isn't as attuned as perhaps others around them are. And it's such an interesting concept to think about how we choose to reflect on the way that we behave, the daily experiences that we have. And I think something for me that's really helped in probably the last 2 years for sure, but I know that the sort of thinking about it and reflecting kind of in my own head, if you like, goes back much, much longer than that for me personally. But more recently is the concept of actually journaling about it, so that I actually have a record of what I noticed about such and such, or what I reflected on because I did this, or as some of my training a few years ago, you need to reflect on the situation or the piece of coaching that you did, things like that really help to build that self-awareness, and noticing the little things in life as well, not just the big crucible moments that I talked about earlier, and how you reflect on those and build your experience and build a better picture of who you are to get you to know yourself better. But those small things like noticing, I mean, one thing that I love about sitting in this room on a daily basis is that every day I know I'm going to get to hear the birds sing in the garden. And I know that's a really silly example, but it's just those little things that make you much more aware of yourself, what you're hearing, what you're tuning into, in life in general, and how you interact with others.
I like that. I mean, anybody who's been listening to my podcast will know that I harp on an awful lot about journaling and about gratitudes as well. And
Yes.
just those simple things, just they do, without doubt, like you say, impact on our self-awareness, and again, just that being more comfortable. And I suppose there's one thing we haven't touched on before we wrap up. Again, when I think about mental toughness and some of the different areas to it, you've got emotional control and you've got confidence. If you're more comfortable in your own skin, you're probably more likely to be able to talk about actually how you're feeling and your emotions, and talk about your strengths and your limitations as well, rather than just hiding away and covering things up.
Yeah, and that's a good point. But of course, that's connected to A, your confidence levels, but B, how introverted or extroverted you are, or the new one, ambiverted, for example, which a lot of people are kind of becoming more akin to as we're doing more things online, especially if you were previously introverted, you're having to become an ambivert. For anyone who's not sure what that means, that's sort of that middle point between being an introvert and an extrovert, but as an introvert, being able to do the extroverted things that help you get your job done, for example. So it's dependent on those sorts of things too. And we could spend hours talking about this, David. So interesting. But I think, again, working on your confidence, and working, especially if you're truly introverted, on how you can get over that introversion to be able to do the things you need to do to get out there and deliver that speech or that presentation, or even just being out in public and interacting with people to buy a coffee, whatever it might be. Everybody's different, and working on those confidence levels as well can really help with that mental toughness piece.
Yeah, obviously I do a lot of work in sport, and most athletes have coaches, and if you think about it, really, that's what the sports coach is there for, isn't it? To try and develop that confidence in a tactical level, or on a specific task, and they'll do it in practical ways, and in some ways as coaches working with executives and sports people, that's part of our role, just in a slightly different way, really.
Yeah, and I love the idea of thinking about the support network around you. I'm doing a talk next week which has a section on it all about how you get support, in terms of pushing you forwards and helping you achieve the results that you really want. Now, in that context, I'm talking about getting a promotion in a corporate environment, but in this context, in our general day-to-day context, having the right support around you is critical to your success. And I was so honoured to have the experience to work with the British Olympic Association in the run-up to London 2012, and project leading their preparation camp for Team GB. So I got exposed to this high performance, top athletes, elite performers world for that 2.5 years while I was working with them. And it was just incredible and fabulous in the way that a lot of that can translate and be useful to you in your day-to-day life, even if I'm not running the 100 meters or whatever, because, good job you can't see me from here down, but I'm definitely not running the 100 meters. But, we all have things that we're good at, of course. And it's just so interesting to understand how all of that fits together, in terms of making you mentally tough, but how it does often take, I can't remember the exact saying, but an army to deliver something, and not just one person. The elite athletes aren't as successful as they are just because they're good at running the 100 meters, for example. They've got a whole team of people around them and supporting them. And to translate that in day to day as a leader, don't be isolated in your leadership. Get the right support around you, whether that's a mentor, whether it's a coach, whether it's a sponsor, whether it's an accountability partner, whatever you need to help you succeed and help you be comfortable in your own skin.
I think that's a nice way to finish. On a nice positive note there, Paula. I really appreciate your time. Thank you. You've come across with some lovely ideas there for the listeners and the viewers.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. And any questions, be happy to answer them in the comments as follow-up.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.